So, this morning, I'm going to talk about something a little different. And I'm going to generalize, so let's, if it's not the case for you, that's great. But I can probably say that the vast majority of us either do have or have had something about our appearance that we're not happy with. For some like me who have been putting on that over-the-hill weight gain, and I know it's actually gummy bears, but for those of us whose metabolisms have slowed down and are not keeping up with the candy and things that we still like to eat, it may concern us. I've just decided round is a shape, and I'm going with it. I'm kind of like that comedian that said he doesn't understand why everybody has a problem with their scale. He said, you make sure you don't get the digital scale. Get the old analog thing. And he said, as soon as it hits the number you like, step off. But for others, maybe it's your nose or your ears. Look at that. For some people are self-conscious about their height. I remember when I was in college, I dated a woman who was 6 foot tall. And she said, I was 6'2" at the time. I have now shrunk, thank you. But at the time, she said I was the first guy she had dated that she didn't have to wear flats all the time around. And so, sometimes really tall people will wear flats to keep from looking too tall. And really short women will wear those, what do you call those things? What? Platforms? Yeah, and I remember back in the day they used to have flowers on them and all that stuff. Do you remember that? Going around the whole thing? To not look too short. In 2017, over 229,000 cosmetic surgeries were performed on teens between 13 and 19 years old. And these aren't surgeries to repair functionality. Like a deviated, a lot of times the doctors will skimp a little, fudge a little, and they'll say they have a deviated septum. You heard that, right? It's the thing that runs down the middle of your nose, and they said it's deviated, so we have to repair that, so we're just fixing her nose while we're at it. Or his nose. That's how they get it by the insurance companies. But this is cosmetic surgeries, augmentations, all of these things. These are elective surgeries for young people that are dissatisfied with the way that they look. And I find that amazing because every TV show that I watch and when I'm out somewhere, you're constantly seeing young people take selfies. Do you guys do that? And so I see this, and we've got that narcissistic society that wants everybody to watch us for some reason, and yet we're rarely satisfied with our looks. In fact, I was just reading about, I always forget her name, the lady that played Monica in Friends. And she said, okay, I went a little overboard with the plastic surgery. And yeah, if you look at some of these actresses or actors that look absolutely nothing like they did when they were young, it's amazing. But here's another astonishing. In 2016, Americans spent $16 billion on cosmetic surgeries. $16 billion. And this preoccupation with our looks isn't just a Western culture thing. This has been going on for for centuries, hundreds and hundreds of years. Right? Most cultures, in some way or somehow, are concerned with how they look, and they have their own opinions on what is beautiful and what is not. Even in the Bible, there are blatant examples of what is titled narcissism. 2 Samuel states that David's son, Absalom, was more beautiful than anyone else. And he valued his hair so much, he cut it once a year. And the only reason he cut it was because it weighed too much. It was hurting his neck. Imagine that. He did eventually have a problem with it. He died because he was riding under a tree and his hair got caught in the tree. And he broke his neck. And then somebody came along and finished him off. So that preoccupation with his hair and how he looked didn't turn out that well for him. Even God's prophets could be very sensitive about their looks. 2 Kings chapter 2. Elisha, this is right after he took over the mantle from Elijah. Elijah had just gone up into heaven in that fiery chariot. And Elisha went up from there to Bethel. And while he was going up on the way, some small boys came out of the city and jeered at him, saying, "Go away, baldy. Go away, baldhead." When Elisha turned around and saw them, he cursed them in the name of the Lord. Then 2 she-bears came out of the woods and mauled 42 of the boys. Now, I'm going to tell you here that this doesn't actually mean what we think it means. First of all, that small boys in Hebrew, that means someone a male between the ages of 13 and their lower 20s. So these are not just little boys. And they were a gang that in a really a place that was supposed to be very, very religious, had gone very bad. And so this gang was going around bothering all sorts of people. And so Elisha took care of that. And although there is a lot more to the story than Elisha just being overly sensitive about his lack of hair, this story is a good reminder not to mock anyone about their looks. Mankind is definitely consumed with the way that we look. How many of us have seen that turmoil? How many girls, intelligent young women, have had eating disorders because they felt that they don't fit the narrative of what is beautiful and what is not? It's amazing how many products we see advertised about our looks. In Genesis, we're going to be shown exactly where this comes from. Genesis chapter 3, verse 6 and 7. So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was to be desired to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate. And the woman also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate it. Then the eyes of both were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together and made loincloths for themselves. You know, this is often a place where people use this, to dog Eve or something like that. This was just after Satan had been telling them how great this tree really was. And that it would make her like God. able to know the difference between good and evil. He wasn't lying in that. He was giving at least a half-truth. Satan always likes to do that. He likes to give you a little bit of truth to go with that lie so that it's harder to discern that it's a lie. I'm sure none of your kids ever did that, right? Give you just a little bit of truth and a whole lot of, well, maybe not. And so this had just happened. And so it says this wasn't a mindless thing. She chose. It says, when she saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food, and it looked great, and also was good for getting smart, right? Gaining wisdom. She took some and ate it. It wasn't a mistake. She did it on purpose. She did it thoughtfully. It was what we would call premeditated. Right? But here's the thing. Prior to their disobedience, there was no trace of self in Adam or in Eve. Isn't that something? There was no, it's me against you. There were no arguments between the two sexes. In fact, just before this, we're told that Eve was made from the very bone of Adam. And so she was made to be his helper, his partner. And we didn't have any squabbling, any of that. Isn't that amazing? I'm sure that in most of your households there aren't a lot of arguments. But occasionally in mine, we have a difference of opinion. And we hash that out. But there, because it wasn't about what I want and what about compared to what you want, there was none of that. They had always been naked. We're told in the last verse of chapter 2. They were naked and they were not ashamed of the fact that they were naked. Because they didn't understand that it was wrong. In common language, we would say that they were not self-conscious. You see, when Adam and Eve sinned, they chose self over God. And I want you to understand, every time we sin, every time you sin, every time I sin, every time anyone in the world has sinned, they have chosen self over God. That's exactly what sin is. The definition of sin is selfishness. And so, before this act, there was no selfishness. There was no self-conscious, I hate my nose. My dad had humongous ears. And I remember for my first 10 years of life, I was so concerned that I would grow up and have ears like that until I found out it was adopted and I wasn't going to get his ears. And that's why I have longer hair. So, but we all have something, don't we? I remember a pastor preaching a similar sermon to this when I was young, and he called it Getting Used to the Nose on Your Face. I want you to tell you something today as an encouragement. You are marvelously made. God knew what he was doing when he made you. Now, does that mean that we can't eat too many gummy bears and pack on weight and we can't change kind of the way we look? Yes, we can. Does that mean that, if we don't wash or do things and stuff like that, we can change our appearance? Yes, we can. But the way that God made you, the nose that He gave you, the ears that He gave, you know what I find is interesting? There may be something about you that you have always found you're not happy with. Something that just bothers you. And it may be something tiny. And, but something incredibly weird? That may be the exact thing that the one that you spend your life with may find cute. They may actually find that to be set you apart from other people. And I didn't okay this with her, but when Paula was, how old were you, 4, and you went out the car? She went out the front windshield of the car. Landed on the pavement. They actually pronounced her dead. And she has this little ridge right here that she was self-conscious about. But it was that little ridge, when I saw it, that is so cute. I've never seen anybody with a ridge. And I think that's really cute. Now, there were plenty of other things about Paul that I found to be cute. But that was one of those things that made a difference to me. God made you a specific way because we're all different. How terrible would this world be if we were all the same build? We had the same looks, and God had rolled us out on a conveyor belt? That'd be horrible. Be even worse if He made our insides exactly the same too. That all of us were like made what we call mosaic thinkers. That we tend not to finish stuff. We have a plan, and here's the plan. Now you get us there. That's what someone who's mosaic is. They see images. They don't necessarily see the steps to get there. However, you know what God did? He brought someone into my life who's a detailed person. Okay. Now I know we've got some Disneyland fans. How many of you go to Disneyland? At least once a year. Okay? So, me, I'm just going to pull into the parking lot. I'm going to go, and first thing I come to, I'm going to stand in line. Right? Paula, when we're on our way, she has this pad, and she marks out, all right, which ride do you want to go on first? We need to find out which ones are going to have the most lines, and then get there first before it opens, and just run right in and go to those left. Brad says, that's the way to go. But see, God made us differently. And so often He did that because we're going to complement our partner. So being self-conscious about the fact that I may start a conversation and then, for those of you who know me really well, I may turn and start a different one with someone else. And when I was younger, that really upset me. I couldn't stop it, but it upset me. But getting self-conscious about the way that God made us, man, that's not the way to go. Do you know what we call that? That's a lack of faith. Isn't it? To not be happy with what God has instilled in us, that's not the way we're supposed to be. That's why I wanted to talk to you this morning. See, I think that no matter what we look like, I think God said you are beautifully and wonderfully made. Fearfully and wonderfully made. Psalm 139. Another, fearfully, what does that mean? Was God scared of something? No. He means he thought about it. It wasn't haphazardly. You were created with thought and with purpose and with design. I heard Chuck Swindoll say the other day, if I were to tell you, do we have any car people? If I were to tell you, I kind of like the new, I don't know if you've seen it yet, the new 2020 Corvette, convertible Corvette Stingray. That thing is gorgeous, right? But if you saw one sitting out there in the parking lot, first of all, you'd say, that better not be the pastor's. We're paying him way too much. But if you saw one sitting out there and you came in here and said, listen, it's amazing, but this week what happened was all of a sudden a whale tail appeared. And it was just there. And then I saw, out of nowhere, just haphazardly, this frame showed up, and it grew a top, and it grew a bottom, and it grew wheels, and it grew axles, and it was all happened by accident. First of all, you'd probably ask me if I was doing the new marijuana thing, right? If I told you that there was no design for this thing, you'd think I was crazy. And yet, we look at ourselves and we go, oh man, this is a mistake. But does God make any of those? No. God doesn't make mistakes. And when he had you in mind, he had a design in mind. What a wonderful thing to remember. What an awesome piece of information that when we feel down, when we feel depressed, nobody loves me, all of this kind of stuff, we can remember that God designed me on purpose, intentionally, fearfully,